Bon après-midi à tous. Merci de vous joindre à nous. C'est bon d'être ici aujourd'hui dans la magnifique ville de Providence, au Rhode Island. Just a few hours ago, I gave a keynote address at the 2017 U.S. National Governors Association summer meeting. And in that speech, I talked about the fundamental importance of the Canada-U.S. relationship. Now, this is something we've been talking about a lot lately for one simple reason. That relationship is vital. It really matters, and we can't take it for granted. We know that having an open, constructive working partnership with our southern neighbors is the best way to create jobs, grow the economy, and support the middle class on both sides of the border. In my speech, I focused on the Canada-U.S. trade relationship and the extent to which our industries are integrated. Canada is America's biggest and best customer. In fact, nearly two-thirds of U.S. states count Canada as their top export market, including the good folks here in Rhode Island. And the feeling is mutual. We sell more goods and services to people in America than anywhere else in the world. Because of this, keeping our border open is essential to maintaining effective business dealings. And this was something that I reiterated earlier when I met with Vice President Pence. He and I had a great discussion about our shared interests. We agreed that there is no relationship in the world quite like the one between our two great countries, and I'm happy to work constructively with the U.S. administration as we keep that top of mind. As you all know, we're gearing up for a modernization of NAFTA, which is both important and necessary. And we're going to get the best results for all North Americans while growing our respective economies and helping our industries in the process. J'espère qu'il y aura encore de nombreuses années d'échanges fructueux entre nos deux pays, qui sont depuis longtemps amis, partenaires et alliés. Sur ce, je suis maintenant content de répondre à plusieurs questions.
Mike Lukather from Global National. On NAFTA, over the last few months, the rhetoric from President Trump has varied tremendously. It's gone from ripping the whole thing up to just a few tweaks right after you met him, to now there's tons wrong with it, there are tariffs that are coming, and we need to throw it out again. How worried are you that no matter how many governors you get on side here, that it won't make any difference because it comes down to what he wants?
One of the things that the President has made very clear is what he wants is good jobs and opportunities for the middle class across the United States, and that's exactly what Canada wants as well for its own citizens. And we know that working together is the best way of ensuring prosperity that is shared broadly across our citizens and opportunities to grow the economy in meaningful and successful ways. I highlight what Vice President Pence said today in his speech, that he's looking forward to modernizing NAFTA in a way that makes it a win-win-win for all three countries and for our citizens. And that's very much the mindset that we go into. And hearing such positive feedback from the governors today on the positive impacts of trade on their economies, on their citizens, and pledging to work together as we move forward is tremendously encouraging as we look at the important renegotiations of NAFTA.
M. Trudeau, Raphaël Bouvier-Auclair de Radio-Canada. Dans votre discours, vous disiez que ce que vous faites ici, ce n'est pas vraiment la stratégie qui est décrite dans les médias, que l'important, c'est d'avoir une bonne relation, puis de s'assurer que la relation avec les États-Unis n'est pas prise comme étant acquise. Or, vous avez quand même procédé à un remaniement ministériel. Vous avez, depuis que M. Trump est président, multiplié les rencontres. Comment ne peut-on pas parler de stratégie organisée?
C'est certain qu'avec une renégociation de l'ALENA en vue, c'est important de bien se positionner. Et on sait qu'on a l'avantage au Canada d'avoir des relations qui ne sont pas seulement entre le premier ministre et le président, mais aussi entre nos premiers ministres des provinces et les gouverneurs, entre nos maires des grandes villes et leurs maires des grandes villes, entre des entreprises de chaque côté et qui chevauchent la frontière. Nous savons qu'il y a beaucoup de façons de travailler ensemble et ça a été un peu la réussite de ces relations entre nos deux pays au cours des décennies, des générations. Alors, je pense que les Canadiens comprennent que oui, c'est important de mettre l'emphase sur cette relation qui est extrêmement importante pour notre prospérité. Et je pense que les gens reconnaissent qu'on a travaillé de façon extrêmement réfléchie et unis là-dessus, de voir des premiers ministres aussi variés que les nôtres en train de parler avec le même message à Washington et aux États, de voir les différents partis politiques au Parlement canadien avoir des messages très semblables sur l'importance d'une renégociation positive de l'ALENA. Ça passe vraiment le message que le Canada est fort et uni dans cet enjeu et que nous allons continuer de travailler avec tous les différents acteurs dans le milieu américain.
Vous pensez que vous auriez dû mettre plus d'efforts dès octobre 2015, avant l'arrivée de M. Trump, pour avoir des liens avec les gouverneurs, par exemple?
Je pense que, je peux dire que lors de ma visite au printemps 2015, à Washington pour la visite d'État. J'ai passé du temps sur la colline de la capitale pour justement rencontrer des leaders au Congrès pour parler des relations qui vont au-delà de tout simplement gouvernement à administration américaine. Et on va continuer, on a toujours continué de travailler profond et largement avec les différents acteurs aux États-Unis. I think one of the things that I've highlighted from the very beginning is that we understand that engaging in multiple layers and multiple levels with the various elements of American government and the economy is extremely important. In the spring of 2015, when we came down for a state dinner with President Obama, I also met with a broad range of congressional leaders to talk about the strong relationships that go beyond simply president to prime minister. And that's something that we continue to understand as a key element of the success of this relationship between our two countries that is like no other on this planet. We know that continuing to engage at multiple levels, having premiers of all different stripes engage with governors consistently as they have been, to have big city mayors engage with the mayors south of the border, to have business leaders on both sides working together to highlight the tremendous benefits that come for our citizens when we work together constructively is something that we have always done and will continue to do.
Mr. Prime Minister, Mercedes Stephenson, CTV National News. Given that 5 former CSIS employees have come forward with a lawsuit alleging Islamophobia, homophobia, and racism in the intelligence agency, will you be ordering an investigation into the workplace culture?
Harassment, discrimination, toxic work environments are things that I and this government find absolutely unacceptable, and I can also assure you that the new director of CSIS, David Vigneault, also finds that to be unacceptable, and we are committed to working as a government to ensure that this kind of harassment does not happen and will not happen. I am confident that Director Vigneault is working very hard to ensure that we get to the bottom of this issue.
En français?
L'harcèlement, la discrimination, un environnement de travail malsain, c'est quelque chose que nous prenons très au sérieux en tant que gouvernement. C'est quelque chose que je prends très au sérieux. Et je peux vous assurer aussi que le nouveau directeur de la SCRS, David Vigneault, prend ça extrêmement au sérieux aussi. Et nous allons donc prendre très au sérieux ces allégations et regarder qu'est-ce qui se passe et qu'est-ce qu'on doit faire.
Prime Minister Tom Parry with CBC News. Can I ask, did your government's settlement with Omar Khadr come up at any time during your discussions today?
No, it did not. We talked about growing our economies in ways where we work together. We talked about security, defense. We talked about collaboration overseas on the coalition against Daesh, against, in terms of international development. We talked about a broad range of things, but that didn't come up.
Can I ask you as well then that former Prime Minister Stephen Harper has called Lane Morris and Tabitha Speer to express his regrets about the settlement that your government made to Omar Khadr. Have you called either of them? And what do you make of a former Prime Minister doing something like this?
First of all, let me say that I can't imagine, no one can imagine the anguish that those families have gone through and are going through. This is an extremely difficult situation, as we all understand. And I understand how Canadians are troubled by this, including by the settlement, as am I. That's why we settled. We were on a track to having to spend $30 to $40 million in the coming years fighting and settling a case that we were destined to lose. The Supreme Court found that Canadian governments had failed to stand up for fundamental human rights, according to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. When governments do not protect their citizens' rights, everyone ends up paying. That's the lesson that I certainly hope that this settlement will lead to future governments understanding. You cannot systematically, repeatedly, deliberately ignore charter rights of any citizen.
Did you call? And what do you think about the fact that Stephen Harper did?
I have not reached out. And I have no comment on what the former Prime Minister did.
Do you think it was appropriate?
I have no comment on what the former Prime Minister did.
Mr. Prime Minister, I'd like to ask you about NAFTA timetable. You've said you're looking forward to the talks, and I guess it's a month now that the notification period expires. So we're already seeing reports in the U.S. press that negotiations will begin immediately, and it'll take place, the first round or the first venue will be Pittsburgh. What can you tell Canadians about the timetable?
We've consistently said that we look forward to sitting down to begin the renegotiation process, the modernization process, as soon as it is practical, as soon as the American process of notification and consultation is done. Like you, I believe that's mid-August, and I haven't yet been notified of any precise location, but wherever it is, as I've said, we're ready and looking forward to modernizing and updating NAFTA, as it has been a dozen times over the past 25 years.
And I'd like to ask you about the death of the Chinese dissident, Liu Xiaobo. Your government statement yesterday was eloquent, but it not once criticized China directly. Things happened to him in the statement, but we had no idea who the antagonist was. Why did you not criticize China directly, and are you advised against doing that?
I have been very clear every single time I have engaged with Chinese leadership in bilaterals and conversations. I've been very clear about the respect for human rights, about the importance of the rule of law, and how that is part and parcel of economic engagement and commercial cooperation with Canada. We have high expectations in terms of that, and we will continue to engage both on economic opportunities for our citizens, but also on standing up for the rule of law and human rights. That's what Canadians expect, and that's what I will always do.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. On NAFTA, a bit of a milestone's coming up in the renegotiation process, probably Monday, but sometime next week. The United States is expected to publish its list of negotiating positions. So based on the reassuring things you heard here, I'm just wondering whether now you would be hopeful that that list would be modest, limited in scope.
I think there are many things that we can do to improve the North American Free Trade Agreement, to modernize it in a way that will create greater opportunities for our citizens, our workers, our industries, but also those of the other two countries. I look forward to engaging in negotiations. I'm not going to speculate about what might be in or what might not. We are certainly have engaged in significant consultations with Canadians, with industry, and we look forward to sitting down to modernize, update, and to ensure that, as Vice President Pence said today, it becomes a win-win-win for our three countries.
Okay, and then so to ask you not to speculate on what might be on that list, I guess I'll ask you how you would respond to it, in the sense that how you intend to handle the pre-negotiation phase. Will you be responding to what's on the list, or will it be lip-sealed until August 16th and beyond?
I think I've been consistent in the way we've engaged with the United States in an open and thoughtful way that looks forward to the rolling up our sleeves and getting into substantive negotiations on a broad range of issues of how we're going to improve NAFTA for our citizens and for the growth of our economy. I can't imagine that we would start negotiating before the negotiations actually start. We're going to be responsible about this, and we're going to continue to be, thoughtful and responsible in how we engage with the American administration, and how we look forward to improving this important trade deal for all three of our countries.
Thank you.
Mr. Prime Minister, Jennifer with the Associated Press. After listening to the Vice President's speech, which was largely about health care, I'm wondering if you could share your thoughts on the fight over health care in the U.S. and in Congress right now, and the way the U.S. provides health care compared to national coverage in Canada.
One of the things I said when I was last down in Washington and standing beside the President at the press conference is I don't think it's appropriate for one country to be lecturing another on how they should be governing themselves, and I'm going to stay consistent in that. Canadians expect me to stand up for Canadians' interests while at the same time having a constructive, positive relationship with the U.S. administration, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. At the same time, I was pleased to reach out to a broad range of governors today to talk about how our economies are intertwined and how we can work hard together to create better opportunities and better hopes for the future for all of our citizens, and that's what I'm going to stay focused on.
Great. You're in Rhode Island. What was your meeting with Governor Raimondo like? Any takeaways?
It was a very positive meeting, as were all my meetings. Governor Raimondo is certainly very interested in innovation and drawing in investment into Rhode Island, particularly in startups and in the digital economy. We had a great conversation because that obviously is one of my priorities as well, creating investments in high tech and innovation and clean energy. These are the kinds of things that it's great to find common ground on and work towards for the benefits of our citizens.
Thank you.
Mr. Prime Minister, I'm Mark Niquette from Bloomberg News. There's been talk of reaching a deal with the U.S. on softwood lumber before the NAFTA renegotiation. Are you close to a deal, and how likely is it that you'll reach one before the NAFTA talks start?
I'm not going to speculate, but I will say that this is an issue that Canadians and the American administration are taking very seriously, and there are constant back and forths on this issue. This is certainly one that both sides have indicated that we want to settle before we start on the NAFTA negotiations, and we're going to continue to work very hard towards that. C'est toujours quelque chose dont on parle avec l'administration américaine. Je peux rassurer les Canadiens que, comme toujours, nous prenons la question du bois d'œuvre extrêmement au sérieux. Et nous et les Américains, on dit clairement qu'on espère régler la question du bois d'œuvre avant d'embarquer dans les négociations pour l'ALENA. Et nous continuons de travailler très fort dans l'espoir de pouvoir livrer cela. Thank you.
Mr. Prime Minister, Chris Speer from the iHeart Radio Network here in the United States. A few days ago, you talked about the fact that you thought that Canada was going to be able to escape the steel tariffs. Now President Trump says that he's going to be going for it. Obviously, you're a huge exporter of steel to the United States. How are you going to respond to that?
Actually, in terms of the trade of steel and aluminum, Canada and the U.S. have a very balanced trade. We have a highly specialized, highly complementary markets, and I've heard from a number of governors today how important Canadian steel and aluminum is to their industries, to their economies, and I have heard directly from President Trump as well that he does not think that Canada should be subject to national security concerns around the trade of steel and aluminum, and we continue to remain extremely optimistic that this important trade, which leads to millions of good jobs on both sides of the border, will continue in the best interests of both of our countries. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you very much.